Do you need permission to gather in public? Whether you're wearing a mask, whether you're standing less than 6 feet apart, who has the authority to tell you and I if we can gather in public or not? Nobody does, my friend. That's a God-given right. A right from nature or evolution or your ancestors, but not the government, my friend. That's what we're going to talk about today. Thanks for joining us on the Freedom Lovers Show. I'm your host, David James Rodriguez, and we're building a voluntary world, one relationship at a time. And I'm inspired to talk about this today because certain police departments and certain council members around the Northern California area don't know the law. And all we're asking these officials is, do you believe you have authority to tell people where they can gather in public? And this is, of course, assuming there's no harm to any person or property, which would define a real crime. But really, do you need permission to gather? You don't, my friends. So I want to invite those public officials to look at the oath that they swore. I didn't swear an oath. You guys did, to the Constitution of the United States. And this is a contract that you made with the people. So I expect you guys are men and women of integrity, that when you swear something, you intend to uphold it. And so that's how I'm going to look at you for, is trying to do what's right. Maybe you got misinformed, or maybe there's donors behind you or other forces behind you trying to dictate what free people like me and my friends and people out there are doing. Also, I want to emphasize, there was a great operation called Operation Love Drop. We send love to these officials. And then we did Operation Cash Drop, 2 separate operations, none of which I organize. So when you're writing on your blog and putting information out to the public, as a law enforcement professional, you want to have the facts straight. And the facts are, I didn't organize it. And the reality is that humanity is awakening to the truth of freedom. And that is, all men are created equal. Nobody has extra power over anybody else. And if you swore an oath to protect people's rights, that puts you below the line. You are a public official and you have a higher standard. So humanity is realizing that this monopoly organization is just a monopoly organization based on coercion. It doesn't mean there's bad people in these organizations who aren't accountable, but sometimes there are. And so if you have no accountability, like qualified immunity, you're permitted by the law to do whatever you want. And so I just want to invite you guys to join Team People versus Team Politicians, because Team People are the living man and women like you and I, versus the politicians, which is just based on statism. And you ask, what is the state? Well, show me where's the state. Show me where's the government. Well, those are buildings that you see in Sacramento, Washington, D.C. Where is it? My friends, government, the root is gubernari menti, which means control mind. Govern, gubernari, to control, and mente, mind. And it's a worldwide awakening. So I invite you guys to join Team Freedom. And if you tell the media that in our operations that we're pulling the mask off of people with no evidence, I invite that council member to produce that evidence, because nobody who I've seen has ever pulled a mask off somebody. When we're out there giving free hugs, it's all voluntary and consensual. So you officials have to be very careful with your rhetoric, because it seems like you're being reckless, and maybe that's what you want. Maybe that's not what you want, but I'm giving you feedback from the marketplace, from the real world, is that your words make a difference. And the reason is, we're out there doing the love drop. I was giving a flower to somebody, and some reporter came over and was like, oh my gosh, don't assault that woman. I said, I'm giving her a flower. So, oh, I heard you guys pull masks off people. And then I realized it was that council member who recklessly said this thing. And maybe you did hear this from somebody, but produce the evidence, because everybody has a camera. As you see, everybody can document what's happening. So I invite you to join Team People, my friends. So whether you're in the government or out of the government, join us. We believe in voluntary, consensual relationships with peaceful, moral people. That's all we're promoting, because it is the future. Just like the internet is the future, Video downloads demand is the future. Very few people read newspapers and magazines anymore, right? Very few people go rent DVDs and VHS tapes, okay, if those exist any longer, because we are evolving. Human consciousness is evolving, and this is where it's going. Voluntary consensual relationships. So join the good guys. People out there in voluntary consensual relationships. We're not always always perfect. Nobody is, but we're doing our best. And if you guys are using rhetoric and using the media, please consider having all the facts, because your words make a difference. And the reality is there is no law preventing the gathering of people in public. So my question to you officials out there is, do you believe in the First Amendment? You swore an oath. Do you believe that we have a natural right to gather and free association, freedom of press, freedom of religion, and freedom of assembly? That's a question that you got to answer. Thanks for joining us on the Freedom Lover Show. I'm your host, David James Rodriguez. We're building a voluntary world, one relationship at a time.